Being in the NBA is serious athletic business. You're expected to be at your best, most optimal weight at all times. But nah, not really. Here's a list of NBA players who managed to get fat while they were in the league. Big Baby Davis. Glenn Davis has been bigger his whole life. In high school, he was 6'6" and weighed 260 pounds. So he was killing it on the football field and the basketball court. After Boston took him in the '07 draft, he was 6'9" and 289 pounds. He was a massive yet athletic and skillful role player who helped Boston win the 2008 NBA championship. By 2011, he got so large Boston gave him a $500,000 bonus if he stayed under 300 pounds, and he couldn't do it. By 2014, he went back to 260 pounds from back in his high school days, but a year later, he was the biggest he'd ever been, hovering around 315 pounds. Unfortunately, that same year, his career ended because of the weight on his leg joints. James Harden. You probably forgot that James Harden used to be skinny. In fact, when he came into the league, he looked like one of the skinniest players in the league. When he was traded to the Rockets, he became one of the best scorers of all time. James would run through the entire league, scoring 35 a game, looking like this. It's crazy that the 2019 James Harden is hanging around 2006 Kobe and 1989 Michael Jordan in scoring. Just doesn't look right. Rasheed Wallace. Rasheed was a star from the first minute he hopped onto the NBA court. If it wasn't for his extracurricular activities with the referees, he probably would have been an all-time great because teams wanted him. They just didn't want his personality. In the mid-2000s, he finally found success with the Pistons. He was also larger than he'd been earlier on, mostly muscular. When he signed with Boston in 2009, his head coach thought he was wearing a fat suit when he showed up to training camp for the first time. When he unretired in 2012, he was bigger than that, and it affected him physically. He was not the same player he once was. Shawn Kemp. Shawn Kemp was an uber-athletic part of the Supersonics duo that made the 1996 NBA Finals. He went from weighing 230 pounds in his early years to more than 260 pounds in his prime, but that was 100% mostly muscle. The Cavaliers gave Kemp a massive contract, then the 1999 NBA lockout happened. He was already quite large at this time, but Kemp showed up to training camp at 315 pounds. He was never an all-star again. Raymond Felton. Raymond was pretty skinny in college at UNC in 2005. It seems the second he joined the NBA, also in 2005, he gained a little bit of weight every year until he looked like this. Somehow, he was still a good backup point guard up until like 2016, despite him looking like this and being shorter than the rest of the players on the court. Charles Barkley. Charles Barkley is the most famous case of a fat NBA player. He was chunky in college, but then he lost a lot of weight to prepare for the NBA in 1986. He managed to be skinny for a couple of years actually. He was really fit when the Suns made the finals in 1993. Then Charles got so big in the late 90s they started calling him the round mound of rebound. No matter how big he was one of the best basketball players of the 90s and of all time. Shawn May. Shawn May was already hefty and strong in college. He's actually one of the greatest UNC big men ever. He played with Raymond Felton in the 2005 UNC team, but he suffered from injuries through his entire NBA career. The Kings put a $100,000 incentive for him to stay in shape, and he did it, but he never really lived up to his UNC hype. Shawn May went from one of the most unstoppable players in college basketball at UNC to an injury-riddled NBA bust. Oliver Miller. A good NBA player early in his career, he played with Charles Barkley on the Suns in the 90s. He did have one good season where he averaged just under 13 points and 7 rebounds a game, but then issues with his weight greatly overshadowed whatever he did on the court. He ballooned to 323 pounds in 202, seriously reducing his mobility and stamina. He even got checked into a food rehab program while he was in the NBA, which is crazy. Michael Sweetney. Came from Georgetown, which produced legendary big men like Patrick Ewing, Alonzo Mourning, and Dikembe Mutombo. Scouts had big hopes for Big Mike. While he was in the NBA, he was mostly riding benches for teams like the Bulls. His weight shot up to over 400 pounds during this time. He was out of the league by 2008. After playing overseas and the NBA D-League for 2 years, He had an NBA tryout with the Boston Celtics where he weighed 450 pounds. Before we get on to number 1, please subscribe. Number 1, Shaq. Shaq came into the league looking quite slim. He was obviously very built though. He added mass, but it was mostly muscle, and his numbers only went up as he got bigger. Recently on Inside the NBA, Shaq said he went from 325 pounds during the 2000 championship to 350 during the 2001, then 375 in 2002, then 400 pounds in 2003. He stayed around there for a couple of years, but by the end of his career, he was looking quite large. Experts like Kobe Bryant claim he would have won more championships if he kept his weight under control. Weight also ended his career, as his aging tendons couldn't support his heavy weight and keep him athletic. If you think you can make a better list than me, please do. Just make sure you link me so I can see and tell you you're wrong in the comments. But thank you for watching, and please sub. We're on the fast track to 50 subscribers.